Okay, it is 11 Eastern, top of the hour, so we are going to kick it off. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on Door Mechanical's webinar titled Hangar Door Refurb for a Fast Return. We're going to be reviewing options for your door and whether replacement is your best choice or if you've got other options. Now, every door is different in many respects, so we're going to be addressing many of these options and scenarios from 30,000 feet. Little bit of housekeeping prior to starting. On the agenda, we're going to cover six different variables or topics to discuss. First off, no door is created equal, and plenty out there have stood the test of time. We're going to review new and old designs as well as new and old names in the hangar door world. Also, we're going to touch on hangar door know-how and how decades of experience have added up to what the groom door mechanical story is. Third, we're going to talk about how you are currently utilizing your hangar and if your door is either helping or hurting your day-to-day operations. Fourth, the heavy part of the conversation is weighing replacement versus refurbishment and different factors to consider. Lastly, we're going to bring it a little bit closer to home towards the end and discuss some case studies. So you might be able to consider different factors that you might not be looking at right now and relate to them. We're going to wrap up after 30 minutes of presentation with 15 minutes or so of Q&A. So please feel free to post your questions in the Q&A board or hold them till the end when we open it up for everybody to ask. Please note that this webinar is being recorded, so you can reference it at any point once we are complete today. All registrants for this event will be sent a link to view it on demand at a later date. A little bit on the speakers. I've got the pleasure of introducing Mark Chambers, who is a managing partner at ARGI. Mark has been involved in the industry for decades. He's got a degree in aviation technology. He's managed an FBO and a commuter airline operation. He's been a flight instructor, a charter pilot, and much, much more. Obviously, Mark's passionate about the industry, and I look forward to hearing from him on his insight today. My name is Steve Houghton. I'm the VP of Sales at Groom Industrial. I oversee and work with the different divisions we've got in industrial services on the sales side of things. Last but not least, Robert Marsh is Groom Door's technical lead. Robert's extremely passionate about problem solving for customers to provide a turnkey solution at every project he looks at. Thank you very much to Mark and Robert for introducing this topic and speaking today. Now, on the experience side, Groom may not be a household name. It's probably because we focus on one thing and one thing only: hangar doors. And we've done so for nearly 50 years. Our decades of experience in industrial services includes turnkey management, which is extremely important in reducing cost and mitigating risk. At Groom Door, we specialize in and focus on hangar door styles on pretty much every style, including bifold, bottom rolling, tilt up, telescopic, tail door, and more. Additionally, we cover all manufacturers, even those who don't exist anymore. It's very important to note, no matter what kind of project or door we're working on, Groom does not outsource labor. We take pride in managing every project internally and turnkey. Our goal is to get your hangar back to new quickly and safely. A little bit more on track record before we get on to the rest of the webinar. Doors come in all shapes and sizes, and depending on their condition, so do the magnitude of their problems. Groom's fully equipped to handle any scope of work, be it preventive maintenance, replacement, installation, all the way through to a full refurbishment. At the end of the day, hangar facility managers call Groom with their big problems where they're looking for a solution and not just a short-term patch. I'm going to pass it to Mark now to discuss a view from the operator side of things.
Thank you, Steve, and welcome everyone here today. I've spent over 20 years assessing the value of aviation service businesses of all shapes and sizes. And I'm often asked about how value is affected by older hangars by buyers and sellers alike. I can tell you from personal experience that poorly maintained hangars, especially with malfunctioning door systems, not only detract from the value of the business, but moreover raises concerns about how the rest of the facilities are being looked at after. I will admit that about 2 lifetimes ago, as a young lineman, I used a tug to free stubborn doors. And even back then, I kind of wondered how to go about fixing the problem. After all, as operators, we seldom deal with removing hangar doors with big cranes, digging up and rebuilding tracks, and the like. And we often don't know who to call. Often return to new doors, but the cost usually returns us back to patching up the problem, which usually returns. We here at Aviation Resource Group have worked with Groom for years and have come to appreciate their engineering expertise and understanding how to design and carry out solution for aging hangar issues. Like when an older hangar needs a facelift or modification. In fact, most recently, Groom worked to redesign a large paid hangar to accommodate larger aircraft that a buyer was interested in accommodating. Today, you'll hear from Steve and Robert, both with hands-on experience in assessing aircraft hangar structural issues, designing cost-effective solutions, and putting their crews to work to carry out the project. Given their engineering expertise, they tend to use the existing hangar doors. In other words, they tend to use what's there with necessary upgrades and updated mechanical systems to save time and money. That's what we want to hear about. I really wish I knew these guys when I was on that tug, looking up at that massive door about ready to jump the tracks. All right, now, if you're watching this webinar, you are likely dealing with the very issues addressed here today. So listen up, like rails, stubborn doors, outdated mechanical systems, accommodating larger aircraft, the 24-foot door height won't fit the 28-foot tail, that kind of thing. And just overall appearance. Because some of these hangars, I mean, let's face it, a hangar is going to last for a long time. We just don't want it to look like it. I hope the presentation is helpful when faced with some of the older hangars that you're dealing with and turning them into fully functioning assets. Thank you, Steve and Robert.
Fantastic. Thanks for the introduction there and industry insight. Now, onto the refurbishment topic itself. Do you refurb or do you not refurb? When weighing your options, you first must weigh cost savings and consider the age-old cost benefit analysis. Another factor to consider, and very important one that some people don't think about often, is whether or not there's historical significance or value that has to be considered. Other times the structure of your hangar might be sound, but the modernization is lacking. There might be some safety concerns in the door itself, the glass, etc. We're going to touch on that a little bit. Or the functionality is just no longer there. It's not reliable. Maybe the door won't open or close. I'm sure everyone is picturing Mark on the tug a few decades ago. Painted a good picture there. We've all seen it. It's too commonplace. And finally, maybe the plane just doesn't fit. It's very important that your hangar door is conducive to operation daily. Lastly, peace of mind is extremely important. Your hangars, as an asset, its sole purpose is to protect the value of expensive aircraft. A little bit goes a long way when making sure that you've got a right design for that function. Now, let's say that you've decided to start over. You need to do something about your door more than the patchwork that has occurred in the past. How do you compartmentalize whether you refurbish or replace? There's a split screen to give you a black and white perspective on average for factors to consider. 4 main factors would be cost, time, function, and capability. Do you have a resource and a contractor that knows how to do it, is capable of doing it? Now, the age-old adage, time is money, right? I think cost and time go hand in hand here. We typically see the 3-to-1 multiplier in savings on the cost side for in favor of refurbishment versus replacement. There's just more going on there. On the time side, a replacement, the biggest factor to consider is production lead time. If you've got time, it might be something to heavily consider. If you don't, not so much. So a refurbishment on average will take Groom 2 months. Once we get sign-offs, a replacement might be 5 to 6, beginning to end. On the function side, when done correctly, replacement and a refurbishment both have perfect, functionality. You're getting what you need, and that's a win-win. Now, in terms of actually executing the project, knowing the door system is extremely important, and finding capable contractors to refurbish might not be as easy as finding a capable contractor merely to replace. So different factors to keep in mind when you're making your decision. Now, with all these options considered, let's take some time to look at the individual door issues that lend themselves to making that decision of refurbishment or replacement. Robert?
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Mark, and welcome everybody. We're going to break down a few of the different types of refurbishments that are available. There's a lot of systems and subsystems within your hangar facility that could be individualized, repaired, or replaced to give you a fully functioning hangar facility. So the first one we'll talk about is bottom rails. These are probably your most important asset of a bottom rolling hangar door. These are what the door rests and glides upon whenever you're functioning the door. A lot of options here that go wrong are something like drainage. You're getting water buildup. The rails can sink over time, or you're just having chips, cracks, welds are breaking, something that is going wrong. So as you can see in these photos, this is kind of during the work and after the work of replacing those rails. So this is a whole rail section that was replaced, but you can do individualized members as well, anything from 1 foot in length all the way up to your full rail length. In this particular case, the customer was having major drainage issues, and we rerouted the drainage in this rail to be able to better accommodate their facility. A lot of the time also your doors just won't open. There are multiple causes that could run this issue, and that's everything from upper rollers, bottom rails, wheels, drive systems, electrical, etc. And a lot of the time your solution to that is exactly what Mark did. You put a tug to the door, push it open, pull it closed, and get by. But really there's a huge safety concern in that. You also have the efficiency of that. If your door system's not operating, it's going to take a longer amount of time to open or close your door. And you also have the image concern that tug's going to cause some damage to your structural members, to your siding, to your facade, and your other equipment to move aircraft. So there's a lot of reasons you should look at refurbishment instead of just get by for now. Also, as they mentioned, sometimes your jet doesn't fit. As we continue to move on in society, the jets continue to get larger and larger and tail heights keep creeping up. So whether, maybe you have a hangar facility that doesn't fit the newer jets on the market and you have a customer that wants to come in. So how do you accommodate them? Well, you can either install a tail door in the middle section, or you can completely raise the header. And we'll actually discuss the later version in one of our case studies further on. You also have aesthetic issues. Your siding and panels and man doors and everything can get damaged and not function properly or not operate efficiently if they're letting winter weather through, or your heating and cooling systems having to work harder and causing repair maintenance for those facilities as well. Or it could be something on like bifold doors when your cables are breaking. Why are the cables breaking? How often do you have to replace cables? There's a lot of extra aesthetic options besides just the structural and mechanical portions of your hangar door. The other one, like Steve mentioned, is safety is a huge concern, especially when you're operating around multi-million-dollar assets. So are the limit switches operating correctly and keeping the door in the proper positions? Do you have the functioning strobes and sirens on the inside and outsides of your hangar facility? Do you have glass windows that are dislodging from old glazing and need to repair and update? Or do you just have poor insulation and you're running your HVAC bill through the roof every month? There's a lot of safety and efficiency upgrades and refurbishments that could happen to your hangar facility. As we just mentioned with the limit switches, electronics, your power and controls are what drive all the mechanical components to operate on your door. A lot of these hangar facilities, as they age, electronics become outdated very quickly in today's environment. And so, there's a few options from control panel replacements, getting upgraded to all the smart relays, proper VFD controllers, different drives, different motor replacements, or is your, hangar door have festooned or draped cable and need an update into a power feed replacement, something that's safer to operate, an enclosed system for running your power to your door and allowing it to function at any point in the entire opening. Also, framing is an issue. So framing is all of your structure for your hangar door. In this case, this is a bifold door shown here. You can do everything from single beam replacements to rewelding the entire framing support. All this can be done on site and save a lot of time and money by doing that on site. Some repairs don't even have to come completely off the door and lay them down. You can do it while the door is still installed, depending on exactly what the repair is needed. As we mentioned earlier, the glass panels falling out. So what's the solution for there? Well, that's polycarbonate installation. So really the newer polycarbonate glass operates just like glass. However, it gives you increased thermal performance. It allows your same light path that you had previously. It's much safer. You don't have to worry about panes falling out and landing on personnel or airplanes. And you still get the same 25 years of life expectancy out of these systems. And they fit perfectly retrofitted into whatever glass panel system you are. There's even options to maintain some of that historical proprietary, whether it's color or look, things like that. There's a lot of various options in the polycarbonate replacements. And then a lot of the times when we're coming in for a consultancy on a door, either replacement or retrofit, the door really isn't your only problem, or sometimes not even the source of your problem. That's where coming in with someone who has a full inclusive approach to looking at your hangar facility is important. And that's whether you have to pull permits, you have budgeting issues where you need to kind of figure out how to get all the systems to play together under a friendly budget. You have environmental issues or historical societies that you have to deal with. There's also in your hangar facility, your trusses. A lot of the times those need to be reinforced, or you have extra siding and insulation that needs to get replaced, including on your roofing solution. or your lighting's just inefficient. We've had this case that we'll run over in a case study where we were able to save more efficient lighting in today's environment and help completely redesign a hangar facility. There's a lot of extra things besides just the door that tie into your whole hangar facility that we can help with.
Great, thanks, Robert. Those are all key pain points that we hear from customers when considering whether or not they should replace or refurb or determine the next step. Another key factor, outside of the door performance itself is, what's the refurb team comprised of that's actually executing this. We build our team up of problem solvers and solutions providers. It's extremely important for our team to understand and be problem solvers so they can determine the current state, formulate options, and make the most of what you've already got. No refurb is an off-the-shelf solution. Second, we drive for ROI. That's how we measure success of our projects. The 3-to-1 savings ratio is our target in every design for a project in refurbishment. Third, we operate in a customer-centric environment. We're focused on the outcome of the project and not binding contractual obligations. Lastly, in order to execute a project, it's extremely important that the right support and product is available to us. We work with all the key quality players in the space, many of whom are watching and listening in on the webinar today. Now, just like Rome, a project does not happen overnight. We collaborate with experts in different fields respective to different projects, as every project does have its own unique factors. First and foremost, we collaborate and work with owners and operators proactively. Next, whether it's raising a header, widening an opening, machining parts, architects and engineers are crucial in determining if it's safe, structurally sound, aesthetically appealing, et cetera, et cetera. Historical societies, again, this is often overlooked until you get to that point. But, if you're refurbishing an old facility, it's something that you do need to consider. So you can leave it to us to take care of that. We're well adept to doing so. And lastly, machine shops. We talked on, working on, equipment and doors where the manufacturers are still operating and doing well, but in many cases that's not possible. There's a lot of doors out there where the manufacturer is now defunct and doesn't have aftermarket parts available. We're able to reverse engineer, machine, and make that old door new in those particular examples. So coordinating the efforts of all these crafts is crucial to leading your project successfully. I think a picture is worth 1,000 words, so it's worth parking on a few of these before we get into the case studies and discuss some of the numbers. But in this particular project, as we look at the inside of the door, believe it or not, that is the same door. The customer had 3 main goals for us. They wanted functionality back, they wanted visual appeal, and they wanted efficiency back in their old door. So as we look at this project, we laid the panels down on the ground. We did a fair amount of welding. And as you can see on the inside picture here, we erected the panels back and painted them for strong visual appeal. Now, the outside of this door shows an even more stark contrast and does look brand new. But if you can see through those panels there, the infrastructure of the door itself is the same. Now, The siding panels were replaced, and the windows themselves are now efficient and safe polycarbonate. So the doors are lighter, easier to move, safer, and more efficient. I think there's a huge win for the customer. In our first case study, this is a case of an underutilized hangar due to the size of the door opening and the size of the hangar itself. Simply put, the airport who owned the facility wasn't able to lease the space because their ideal customer couldn't fit their jet into the hangar. So this was resulting in lost profit dollars. And the airport realized this. They put the space on the market and it quickly drew interest. And this resulted in the need for a super quick turnaround. And we were put to task. We did so by working with engineers to design the header modification. In this particular case, it was to raise it a little bit over 26 inches. Now we worked with the engineers, but we also coordinated proactively with our client's customer in order to allow them to start moving in while we did this project. This allowed for a much quicker ROI and speed to profit for the airport itself. Now on the result side, it was a win-win. We successfully completed the project from design to execution completion within 2 months. As you can see in this picture, I don't think you would ever know that that soffit used to be a little bit over 2 feet lower. I'm going to go on to case study 2 here with Robert.
Thank you, Steve. So in this case study, there were aging hangar facilities where we were evaluating the door structure for whether we could replace or refurbish these side-by-side structures. This was a barrel-shaped wooden framed hangar from like World War II era that had major structural issues that the customer actually had a different contractor in to try to address. Unfortunately, those structural issues were not really remedied properly and were continuing to cause headaches for the entire door system. So basically the customer came to us looking to pair door replacement or refurbishment with structural replacement. And we needed to do these quickly and cost effectively for the customer. So after an engineering model, it was determined, as I mentioned, that the reinforcements were insufficient. So we developed a design for a proper fix, and our team was able to bolster the roof structure with new steel reinforcements and state-of-the-art tensioning system. As we were replacing these doors, the customer brought up the fact that they had a lighting issue that I mentioned earlier. So we did a thorough engineering assessment and distribution of the light and was able to update the lights from the old bay lights into LEDs. And we were able to replace one of the hangar doors completely and then refurbish the other one with new bearings, weather seals, paint, and safety equipment. In the end, our comprehensive and competitive solution ended up saving our client just a little over $3 million as compared to some of the other quotes that were coming in. They also got a long-term benefit from the lighting solution and were able to save roughly $6,500 per month on their utility bill alone. So basically our comprehensive solution and being able to address not only the hangar door issues, but the entire hangar facility as a whole gave increased added benefit for this customer in particular. On case study number 3, this was an issue where an airport had 3 large airport hangar structures all side by side next to each other. And there was a whole multitude of issues happening with this hangar. There was, environmental issues, there was structural issues, and the doors just weren't functioning properly. So our goal was basically to be able to come in, save the client time and money by project managing the entire project, develop a comprehensive design that addressed not only the door issues, but addressed their structural issues, their contamination issues, and then ultimately replace the doors on this facility. So we worked with a partnered engineering firm to enable the proper design for the structure. That included some new supports, new trusses, new siding, painting the entire facility, not just the doors, but all around the entire building. We created new bottom rails, new motors. We did the glass replacements, basically completely redesigned this entire hangar facility for the customer. You know, our comprehensive approach using our crew, our project management, we were able to complete this project on time and on budget for the customer. And we were roughly able to save them $45 million over their entire structural abatement and replacement options. So basically, they're previously looking at completely demolishing this hangar facility and starting from scratch. But we were able to come in and retrofit and refurbish this entire facility and ended up saving them quite a chunk of money there for keeping up with their system.
Excellent. This is my favorite one, Robert. I think this points out that we aren't limited to just driving value into the door itself, but also providing solutions to offer much bigger strategic savings in particular cases. That's a huge number that I think you'd be hard pressed to find that ROI on any kind of project.
Agreed.
Few takeaways from today. You know, if you're having long-term or terminal issues with your door, it's very important that you make sure to entertain both of the potential solutions between a replacement and refurbishment. Now, while the service of refurbishment is not necessarily new, it does take a very specific skill set to plan, design, execute one of these projects effectively and efficiently. Make sure to vet any contractor involved in any part of that process. That's why we take pride in managing it turnkey to ensure all those factors are addressed. Lastly, compared to the alternatives, I think the ROI, as Robert pointed out in those case studies for a refurb, is just tremendous. It's indisputable that there's tremendous opportunity to save and worthwhile look if you haven't entertained it in the past. With that said, that wraps up our webinar for today on refurb versus replacement and different factors. Thank you very much for your time. You can see Mark, myself, and Robert's contact information. Please feel free to contact any one of us with questions that you may have. With that said, at this point, I'd like to address any questions that have been posted. We do have one question so far. If you have any that you've been holding, please feel free to speak up. The first question that I see here is, for refurbishment projects, what geography do you cover? On the refurbishment side of things, we cater to domestic United States. We have received a lot of interest in Canada as well, as again, this specialty service isn't common anywhere, including the United States and Canada. So that's the main area that we're going to cater to on the refurbishment side right now. Now, does anyone have any additional questions? If not, I welcome you to contact us one-on-one. I do understand that a lot of the questions you may have are proprietary in nature, and we're happy to address them in more of a off-record conversation. Okay, we've got some other comments and questions on the maintenance and repair side of service and territory. We address that twofold. Many FBOs and customers have locations all over the country. So we try to look at more of an MSA, or contract approach to make sure that you can have, a streamlined way of forecasting preventive maintenance to ensure that you protect the life cycle of your asset as well as possible. So that would be a question that we could address specifically, Darren, to your specific scenario and ownership and operation. We'll make sure to reach out to you on that directly. Great. Dale, thank you for your comment. We'll certainly be in touch. Thank you everyone for your time and have a great day.